Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining another Goats on the Go video. My name's Aaron Steele. I'm the founder and a co-owner of Goats on the Go. We are a targeted grazing company, meaning we use goats for weeds and brush. We launched goats for weed and brush control. We launched Goats on the Go back in 2012 here in Ames, Iowa. And since then, we've grown to have developed a family of local goat grazing affiliates. These are independently owned businesses that operate their own goat grazing companies under the Goats on the Go brand. There are about 24 of those affiliates scattered across the country. And tonight I have with me Earl and Becca Schrader from Vermont, who are one of our newest affiliates and going to be launching their goat grazing operation this spring. So Earl and Becca, thanks for joining me. Would you mind just introducing yourselves and telling us a little bit about where you're located and where you're hoping your business will go this year?
Sure. So I'm Becca, and this is Earl. We're here in East Montpelier, Vermont, which is basically central Vermont, pretty much, or a little bit north of center. We've been here for about 5 years, and this is going to be our first grazing season. And I think one of the things that really appealed to us about the idea of using goat grazing is that one of the reasons we moved here really was because we both have an interest in sustainable agriculture and sustainable architecture and just living more in concert with the world and the earth. And we also really like goats. We also liked the idea of, we bought about 21 acres out here, and we really wanted to do something with it. We weren't really sure what at first, but we like the idea of the goat grazing because it's not something where you're constantly cycling livestock through, but at the same time you're also not doing vegetables, which usually has a pretty low profit margin and can be really difficult to get a foothold in. So the goats we just love everything about it. We love what they do for the land. We love to just watch them and they're a lot of fun. And so that's a lot of why we wanted to do that.
Yeah, basically though, before moving to Vermont, why we moved here and why we bought land was we did want to get connected with the land. And we wanted our boys, we have a couple boys at home with us that are now 12 and 14, fun years. But actually we went through isolation recently and it's starting to open up, but it's still happening here in Vermont. And it was really cool because at the minimum during that time, we had 9 friends for them to play with, which was really cool. They go out and they play, I don't know how they do it, but they go out and play soccer with the goats. They do other things in the snow and everything. I don't know. But so it's kind of interesting, but yeah, it's really cool. And so far for me, we've had goats now since October, something like that. And with that, they're the coolest creatures I've ever come across. I've had dogs in the past, rabbits, a couple other things. And the boys did 4-H with cows prior to this. We didn't want to get in that big animal. And we had on our list before we moved to Iowa, things we're looking forward to. We wanted goats and chickens. And now we have a lot of goats. And they're pretty awesome. They're really smart creatures. And so far we've been very fortunate with them. Not a lot of escapes, and that's the tricky part. But we went to a lot of farms before we opened up our yard, I guess you would call it, or lawn to the goats. And right now we're training with fences after going down to Goats on the Go training. And it's a really thrilling, exciting time. We've got 18 goats now. We're going to have 21 in another weekend. So it's cool.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, obviously you're just launching your business this spring. So you've spent, and I can recall many emails traded back and forth between us as you were thinking about opening a goat grazing business and joining Goats on the Go. And surely you did a lot of planning going into this. And I'm wondering, profit is a perfectly good reason to start a business, but I'm wondering what other goals you had in mind for your careers, for your life, for your family in deciding to go down this path.
Well, I think getting into agriculture, and we wanted to do something with that, and we might tap maple here. That's a common thing as we get further along, but we want to do it one step at a time. I think getting into agriculture is a tough business, so that's one thing. And this gives you a different opportunity. And surprisingly, in Vermont, at least to the scale we're talking with Goats on the Go, it's pretty limited to have the grazing business do what they're doing here. And so we were really excited about what's happening out there. I also wanted the opportunity for our boys to get connected to something bigger than them, and get them really involved and give them the opportunity to someday either take this or something very related, maybe if they want to, and continue that on as they become adults and such as that. That was one of my bigger things. And I'm loving the aspects. We're building structures and fences and feeders and all these things and troubleshooting them. And I get them out there working with power tools and other things. So for that aspect, for me, it's a neat thing. It's also, I really love when we haven't done a lot of it lately, but when we have neighbors that get to visit the goats, or when we get to have people come out and bring Christmas trees to them to feed them over the winter time, stuff like that. So those are some of the things. What else would you say?
Yeah, I think too, like definitely wanting to leave a legacy for our kids. And, we're hoping that one or both of them will carry on the homestead and the farm and really enjoy it and have it continue to thrive. And we have all kinds of ideas about other things that we'd like to do and growing our herd and that kind of stuff. And I think too, like we really saw an opportunity here in Vermont where people, it really fits well into the kind of Vermont lifestyle, I guess, or, people love the outdoors. They're very conscious of the environment, and they like the idea of doing things with low impact, but at the same time, there aren't really people doing the goat grazing here to any kind of scale. So there's really an opportunity there to show them that this isn't just, the goats are great to watch, but it's not just a novelty. It really is a very effective method of clearing brush and getting rid of invasive species. And we have a lot of invasive species here in Vermont, and it's a problem. A lot of municipalities in particular are really interested in what the goats can maybe do for them. And so I think that combination of it just being, it's a lot of fun to watch and it's really great, but it's also a really good system. And I think we both like that, that everything about them from, the fact that they're, they lightly tread on the ground so they're not tromping things down, and then they eat the invasive species, and they leave behind manure that isn't too strong to be, to sit right out there on the land. And so it regenerates the soil. And I think just that whole kind of cycle of from all directions at how effective and regenerative it is, I think really appealed to us too.
One thing I found interesting in operating our goat grazing business here in Iowa is, even though it is Iowa, there are a lot of people who are very detached from agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
You'd think that everyone at least knows a father or father-in-law or a cousin or somebody who's a farmer in Iowa. Well, that's really not the case. And even though goats are not the most common farm animal, they are perhaps the most relatable farm animal. And so one thing I've found really cool is just the opportunity to, when we go do goat grazing projects at parks or trails or whatever, just the opportunity to talk with people about how agriculture actually happens. Like, we're bringing agriculture into their world for a moment. You mentioned your neighbors, for example, being very interested in the goats. Do you foresee that as something you're excited about in your business?
Very much. We have a lot of ideas. The boys have ideas. We have ideas of getting connected with schools, and not only taking them out and taking care of their land, but showing them a different way and showing the kids and educating them. Just talking to people before we really got going, after we got them, and just talking about the way goats function and what they do. People are a little bit, I don't want to say ignorant, but a little bit ignorant about things with them. They're just kind of stunned when they find out what they do and how they function. And I'm still stunned a little bit. When we first picked them up, my son Taggart, he's the 14-year-old, he's like, we were talking about what they eat, the thorns and other things. And I'm like, man, their mouths must be made out of steel, but they're not. It's like crazy. And they just do, and they love it. They go out and start browsing on different things, and they just, little at a time, nibble at it, and it's just amazing. But yeah, I guess, yeah, no, we're very excited about the opportunity to educate others about things. We'd like to get people out here in Vermont and other regions to start up other Goats on the Go and help them along the way to make it much more. I think getting people excited about things. I studied appropriate technologies for a long time and wanted to know what happened that we've forgotten all these different things. And so many people don't realize the natural cycle and how it can take care of the landscape really well for you, I think. And so we're trying to learn to do that the best we can. And I think goats are a really phenomenal opportunity for most things. I mean, sheep would be great as a supplemental for certain things too.
Yeah, I think too, here in Vermont, we have, we do have a lot of agriculture like Iowa does, but it's historically been really dairy focused, cow dairy focused. And that industry is really struggling. And so there are a lot of farms that are looking to, what can they do to transition to maybe something different or supplement what they're doing with something different. And so I think there's a lot of potential to, there's been a lot of goat dairy springing up around here. But just to give people some ideas of what you can do with a farm that might be a little bit different than what people have thought of before.
Yeah, I find interesting too here in Vermont that people are familiar with goats to some degree, either as pets, a lot of people, or as dairy. Like there's dairy here. There's a lot of dairy cow also, but dairy, and there's some meat. And people are the first thing they ask us every single time is like, well, what are you going to do? You're going to dairy? You're going to do meat? And I'm like, not exactly. So anyways, it's really interesting to see the responses. And then you get to just chatting with people and tell them a little bit about it. And they get blown away by what you understand. And one guy dropped off his Christmas tree and he went into stuff and we talked about it and he was just blown away. He's like, here's my card. It's not for business or anything, but just stay in touch. Let us know how the goats are, So that's kind of neat.
That's great. So I have one more question. I'll get you out of here on this. I have no idea, no doubt at all that the Schraders are going to be a success in their goat grazing business in Vermont. But if we were to have this phone call 5 years from now and you have an established, successful goat grazing operation and you're going to tell me why it's successful, well, what will be the measures? What are the metrics for you as to whether your business is successful or not?
I think one of them is just the potential that it has for our family and our lives. And if we're able to really, especially, have it be at least one of our salaries, I think that would be a measure of success. And I think too, like really, we're really excited about just kind of spreading the word. And so I think, we're hoping that we can recruit some other affiliates. Right now, we're the only ones east of like Indiana, Illinois, I think. And so we're really looking forward to trying to recruit some other folks and really having them see the potential in what we're doing here and kind of spreading the word and having more people do goats. And then I think just, really making it something that is, seen as professional and providing a quality service. And that at the same time is entertaining.
We have the baby monitor out at the goat area and we hear one of the newer goats are a little louder. Anyway, sorry.
So, I think just really when, we want people to not think it's something weird or silly or, but just to really have it be something that is taken seriously as a serious form of land management and invasive species management as something that's effective. And I think we'd like to, we'd really like to grow so that we can also help other affiliates with, whether it's by growing a larger herd that we can, help other affiliates out with, or doing more breeding of our own, and those kinds of things. I think that would be kind of the mark of success for us.
That would be a lot of it. I think we're learning a lot and we have a lot to learn still. But I think if we can grow our herd in an iterative process where we're continually growing and having successes, because they're a little challenging at times with medical and other things, but for the most part, we've been very fortunate. But if we can continue to do that as we grow our herd and understand how to manage them on our land and manage the containment of them in different facilities and buildings and such like that, along with keeping them healthy and happy throughout the whole year, not just during the grazing season, but over the winter, and keep that where it's at a very manageable level to where we're still making profit, but yet having fun with it. I think that would be a great way to, and also just the impact we have on the community, I think would be a really great thing to see too. I think I see a lot of potential for how good this can be for so many others out there. When we share them on a Zoom or something like that, it really brightens up people's days. So I think as that goes, and other things like Becca said, I think that will be our way to measure those things.
Mm-hmm. I think too, one of the challenges we have here is that we have, and I know that too, some in Iowa, but our grazing season has the potential to be pretty short. It just snowed here again the other day, so we're interested, and we've been talking to people about different ideas. Like in Minnesota, they're using goats to graze buckthorn in the winter, actually, and stripping the bark off so that it won't be as successful in the spring. And so, trying things like winter grazing, or we've also talked to our extension here in Vermont about riparian grazing, which right now is not really allowed because, but that's mostly because they come from a cow perspective of not wanting the cows too close to the water. So I think there's just a lot of opportunity for education and sharing information with people, and really getting them comfortable with having goats around and doing things.
Great. Hey, Schraders, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. Have a great grazing season and a good evening, okay?
Thank you very much.
You too.
All right, take care.
All right. Have a good evening.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.